Hello and welcome in. It is always college football. It is currently, right now, 12:28 a.m. in Miami, Florida. I'm your host, Greg McElroy. I just got back from the stadium a moment ago. We were on the call for Notre Dame and Penn State, and my goodness, what a game it was. I mean, just incredible game. Fun to be a part of, fun to be on the call for. I hate that someone had to lose it, to be honest with you, just given how much fun that game was and the emotional swings and the responses we saw on both sides. But unfortunately for the Penn State Nittany Lions, they come up short as Notre Dame punches their ticket to the national championship. Incredible game. We're going to go through it here in just a moment. Before we do that, I'm going to ask all of you, if you could, go ahead and take a peek. If you're here with us on the ESPN College Football YouTube page, hit that thumbs up. It's no problem. If you are here with us via the podcast platform, if you could, just go and see whether or not you've left us a rating. Go and see whether or not you've left us a review. And if you haven't, if you could, that'd be awesome because we are here serving you tonight, the fan, for Always College Football. Just got done calling a game. It was a blessing to be able to call a game like that. Of that magnitude with that kind of audience, and very, very grateful to everyone that has supported the show all season and to everyone that supported us on the call tonight and supported the teams that were involved because it was a tremendous setting. Let's break it down, though. Let's tell you why it happened, how it happened, the key moments in the game, and how it felt from start to finish as the Fighting Irish prevail and punch their ticket to the Natty for the first time in 12 years. All right, let's go into it. I feel like I need to take my jacket off for this, right? Like I'm sitting here, I'm all buttoned up, I'm all fancy. I think it's time to take the jacket off and to get down to business. All right, let's just start with how the game felt at times throughout it, right? So let's start with watching Penn State and watching them in the first half of that football game, 141 rushing yards in the first half. And if you were watching it from a vantage point of a Notre Dame fan, you had to have been super concerned because I know as someone sitting in the booth with no rooting interest, just want to see a great game, I know it was not feeling real comfortable for us in the booth because it was feeling like, man, this Penn State team, if they just keep this going, it's going to be very hard for Notre Dame to find the answers. They were able to get the perimeter run game going. And then as Notre Dame's defenders were moving horizontally, the running backs, Katrin Allen and Nicholas Singleton, were able to put their foot in the ground, get north and south, and they just couldn't bring them down. They were dragging defenders. Notre Dame players were out of their gaps. There were a couple missed assignments at the second level, but for the most part, man, it just felt like Penn State's offensive line was too big, too physical, and were imposing their will with too much regularity. That's how it felt. And then things started to change just ever so slightly as the game switched to the second half, because this was really a game about first half, second half. It's kind of the way it was. It was a tale of two halves. It was all Penn State in the early going until that last drive. And if we're going to give a game ball tonight, I think there's a lot of game balls to be had, kind of all over the place, I might add. First game ball that I'm going to give out is to Steve Angeli, the backup quarterback, thrust in to the lineup when Riley Leonard goes down. At first, it looked like Riley Leonard kind of landed awkwardly on his right side, and then his head went back, and they had to check him for the concussion. He goes into the tent. They check him for a while. Steve Angeli proceeds to lead this group with backup offensive linemen on the field, right down the field to secure 3 points right before the half. That was massive, especially knowing that Notre Dame would get the ball to start the second half, and it just stopped the bleeding. It gave Notre Dame a little life because for 28 minutes, they were getting buried. And then it gave them a little life, a little reason to believe that they can block them, they can move the ball, and they can find some space if they can just give their quarterback a little bit of time. That was really, really impactful. So I do not want to downplay the importance of that end of half sequence. And then at halftime, everyone got to settle down. Notre Dame basically said, we're going to completely sell out against the run. Drew Allers missed a couple of very easy throws. We're going to talk about Drew Aller at some point. My goodness, this is going to be a tape that he is going to have a very difficult time probably getting over. This is going to be a very difficult tape for him to digest because there were countless missed opportunities in the game that could have very, very radically changed the outcome. So let's start, though, with Notre Dame. You notice in the first half, a lot of their runs were a little slower developing. They didn't really allow Jeremiah Love, Jarian Price, Aeneas Williams. They didn't really allow a ton of space because they were kind of waiting for things to open up, and they were getting a couple times behind the sticks. Like, it was just a tough circumstance. I think they had 15 yards rushing in the first half. But in the second half, they said, all right, enough of this. Like, we are going to hand it off to Jeremiah Love, and I don't care if he runs into the back of our offensive line. I don't care. He is going to hit the hole at 100 miles an hour. And the level of intensity that he ran with on those first 4 or 5 carries of the second half really set the tone for how the game was going to go for the rest of the way. He was able to get 7, 8, 9 yards, just chunk runs, just gashing this Penn State defense. And then they finally find a matchup that they had tried to set up at times in the first half, but the pass protection wasn't really working for them. They felt really confident about their their running backs as wide receivers against the linebackers for Penn State. Penn State's got really good linebackers, but they're much better at stopping the run than they are in coverage. They find Aeneas Williams on a sluggo, little slant and go. Perfectly thrown ball by Riley Leonard. Now the offense is starting to get going a little bit. Right down the field, 8-play drive. 7 of those 8 plays were run plays, all 8 involving someone, involving the running back. So very, very impressive start to the second half. Thinking at that point, all right, what will Penn State do for an answer? And it was really impressive, I think, to see Notre Dame's defense. They were selling out against the run for sure. And I think that's one thing that Andy Kotelnicki could probably have done a little bit better, is maybe be a bit more aggressive in the passing game there in the second half. Because I do think with the man coverage that Notre Dame was trying to run out there, they never really tried to get Trey Wallace involved. They never really tried to hit Amari Evans down the field. Like, at some point, you had to take some shots. Like, they were willing to work Tyler Warren on man crossing routes across the field, but where was the deep ball vertical that forced Notre Dame to get out of press coverage? We never really saw it. Where was the big post off play action to get the safeties down, squeezed in, and you hit Evans over the top? We never saw that. And I think that was probably a missed opportunity for Penn State to at least try that, especially considering how accurate Drew Aller has been on deep balls throughout the course of this postseason and really throughout the entire season. Then, of course, Riley Leonard makes a mistake, throws a critical interception there to the left side. And what a play by Dennis Sutton, dropping out underneath it. Riley Leonard tries to get up and over to his tight end, Mitchell Evans, and he just doesn't put quite enough air under the ball. Dennis Sutton goes up, makes the catch, and gives them an opportunity in plus territory to pull out the lead. This was a pretty remarkable 14-play unanswered stretch from Notre Dame there in the fourth quarter, with the Singleton touchdown and then another Singleton touchdown that was paid off quickly after the interception on the PI that they gave them new life, and Singleton pays it off a moment later. Then what was Riley Leonard going to do for an encore? They decide to go with a quick fade, and the defender, Cam Miller, slips, falls down. Next thing you know, Jaden Greathouse is wide open. He has to beat one man, and he finds the end zone. He does that, and now we're knotted at 24. And then the play really of the game, the interception thrown by Drew Aller. Moving left, pressure coming at him, shrinking the amount of time he has to survey the field, throwing it blind across the middle late, where it's intercepted by Christian Gray. A few plays later, Mitch Jeter kicks the 41-yard game-winning field goal, and that was all she wrote. Few takeaways in this one. One, Notre Dame's ability to weather the storm is remarkable. Remarkable. We have seen that over and over and over again all season long. They've had injuries, whether it's Benjamin Morrison, no problem. Benjamin Morrison, the All-American, he goes out. Go ahead, Leonard Moore, and have a great, great season. They've lost Boubacar Traore. They've lost Botello, two great defensive ends that had a chance to be very twitchy edge rushers for them this season. They lose Riley Mills, the defensive tackle in the Indiana game. He's out for the year. Prior to that, they lost Viliamu Asa, the linebacker, for better part of a month. They lost Howard Cross for a month there in the month of November. They have had to weather so many injuries, and yet it never affects how well they play. Next man up mentality. It can be Riley Leonard. He goes out for a series, no problem. In goes Steve Angeli right down the field to secure some points before the end of half. They also lose two offensive linemen in the game. You lose Anthony Knapp, the left tackle, to an ankle injury as he gets kind of rolled up on. Couldn't put any weight on his leg. He's out. So in goes Tosh Baker, who is a career fifth-year player, had played 60 snaps on offense all season. And he goes in and handles and actually does a pretty dang good job against an elite pass rush. They lose their right guard, Rocco Spindler, who's been banged up for a vast majority of the last few weeks anyways. He's got a boot on his right leg. He can't go. In goes Charles Jagyasa, who was lost before the regular season. He was supposed to be the starting left tackle. He gets lost before the regular season to an injury. He's going to be out pretty much the whole year. He finally returns and he plays his first snaps of the season tonight, filling in for the injured right guard, Rocco Spindler. Like, that is a team, ladies and gentlemen. That right there says all you need to know about how this team constantly finds a way to make a play, even in the light of massive adversity and challenges. The other thing I'm really impressed with this Notre Dame team, they always capitalize on the mistakes. Now, they had an uncharacteristically dirty game from a turnover standpoint. They had 2 turnovers on their own. Riley Leonard and Notre Dame had not lost the turnover margin since Northern Illinois. Hadn't happened all season long. Well, it happened in this game, and it did not matter because they made the critical play at the end of half. That's 2 games in a row now in which teams have been aggressive in an end-of-half situation, and Notre Dame has made them pay. Against Georgia, it was in the first half, where they dropped back Gunnar Stockton. R.J. Oben comes around the left end, strip sack, next play, touchdown to Bo Collins. In this particular game, end-of-half situation, they are in 2-minute mode to go try to kick a game-winning field goal of their own. They force a little pressure to Drew Aller, who's sliding to his left, interception over the middle. Then they pay it off later with the 41-yard game winner. So that's two games in a row where end-of-half sequences and aggressive play on the other team cost them against an opportunistic Notre Dame group. The other thing I'll say about Notre Dame is I think they know that they did not play anywhere near their best football tonight and still found a way to win. And honestly, a lot of the close calls kind of went against them from time to time. There was a play in which Christian Gray was held and it led to a big run. It wasn't called. That could have potentially made a big difference and taken some points off the board. There was another play in which, and I think it was the correct call, Schuler gets called for pass interference after Jack Kaiser intercepts a poorly thrown ball by Drew Aller. That was a significant play. And then Christian Gray, he did get called for a hold, which was the right call as well early in the game, but that wiped out an additional interception. So they had a lot of things stack up against them tonight, and it did not matter. They deserve a tremendous amount of credit for that. The other thing that I think we can all take away from this is that Drew Aller has come such a long way. He has become a great football player and has done a lot of really nice things this season as the quarterback of the Nittany Lions. But tonight was a game where it required top-level accuracy, and he just missed too many throws. There's just too many throws where things were missed. Think early in the game, Nicholas Singleton is in the flat. It's 3rd down. Nicholas Singleton's wide open. An accurate throw, one that's on his face mask, on his chest, wherever, it's a touchdown. Instead, the throw is low and behind. Singleton can't grab it. It's incomplete. They settled for 3. That is a 4-point play on that throw's inaccuracy by itself. You think later to the interception that he threw that was bailed out by the pass interference, that was underthrown by 6 yards, maybe at least. Well, if you throw it to the back left pylon, Tyler Warren's got a chance to go up and maybe make a play. Instead, he underthrows it by 5 or 6 yards, and it's intercepted, bailed out by the PI, but still intercepted, so a missed throw there. Earlier in the game, too, he had Nicholas Singleton on a wheel route up the right sideline working against the linebacker. They had the matchup. They had the play. It was perfect. If it's an accurate throw, Singleton catches it. Nobody's catching him between him and the end zone. So there were 3, 4, maybe 5 throws that were flat out inaccurate. And then you had the decision at the end to throw late over the middle, a throw that you just absolutely cannot make. You must give credit to Jalen Sneed for bringing the pressure off the left and forcing the throw and forcing the process to accelerate for Drew Aller. But that is a throw that you absolutely, under no circumstances, can make as a starting quarterback that has played now 2 full seasons as the starter. Can't happen. It's an inexcusable mistake and one that he will agonize over for a very, very long time. Drew Aller has a lot to be proud of. I thought he battled. I thought he did a lot of really impressive things. But that was a mistake there that will absolutely stick with him for a very long time. And I hate it for him. I hate it because he's too good a player and had too good of a year for it to end the way it ended.
Hey guys, it's Greg McElroy. Thanks for watching Always College Football. Make sure you like, rate, and subscribe to ESPN's YouTube channel and wherever you listen to your podcasts.